Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today on Masechtas Chulin daf Tes. We are going to begin on Testament off the second line from the top. From Rabbi Yehuda Omer Rav. So Rabbi Yehuda says the following statement in the name of Rav: Talmud Chacham Sarch Sheyilmud Gimel Dvarim, that a Talmud Chacham needs to learn the following three topics. These are important topics that they should know. First of all, Ksav. What does that mean to write? Like being illiterate? So Rashi explains, Lichtaim shiyad lachtaim shmo. They have to know how to write and sign their name. Yasha bedin ol edus. If they're going to go to a court, so they have to be able to know how to pick up a quill and to use it properly. Second, shchita. They need to know how to do the basic workings of shchita. And lastly, umila. You also have to be a moil, which is pretty interesting. A lot of people could be a Talmud Chacham and they don't necessarily have these skill sets, but it shows that these are things you're supposed to have. Rav Chanina bar Shalmi Mishmei de Rabbi, he adds that Av Kesher Shel Tefillin Berchas Chasan V'Tzitzis. You should also know how to be able to make the knot of tefillin, the basic idea of how to make a tefillin, the yud and the dalid, as well as Berchas Chasanim, which is elaborated in Masechtas Ksuvas, as like the Sheva Brachos, basically know how to officiate at a wedding, and tzitzis. So it's interesting, it doesn't say that a Talmud Chacham needs to know all the intricate details of treifas and things like that, which obviously, once we get to Mem Beis, these are things that hopefully they covered, but these are practical things that they should know. And for that reason, the Idach, Hani Shchichan. So he said the reason why some of them were in the list and some are not is because these are so obvious. We assume that they know these basic things about how to make a kesher shel tefillin and berchas chasanim and tzitzis, to make a pair of tzitzis. So the other ones are more maybe not as common, to know how to do a bris milah in a pinch, how to do a shchita. Okay, if you have a butcher that doesn't know hilchos shchita, so it's not kol sheichet. It means that a tabach, a butcher, but that was part of what he did. He did the shchita. But if he doesn't know the laws, you better make sure not to eat from them. There are 5 basic halachos, and this is probably one of the most important questions that's found in question 9. It says, Eluhin chamisha hilchos shchita. What are they? And when you learn your day and you learn hilchos shchita, you should obviously know these 5 by heart and what they mean. Shehiyah, which we talked about before, which is the delay when you are using the knife. There cannot be any hesitant stop in between. You have to do constant motion. Durasa is pressing the knife. Chalada is burrowing the knife through the simanim. Hagrama is the issue of putting the knife in the wrong place, not in the proper area where the shechita is supposed to take place. And the ikar is literally ripping through the neck, which the way that ikar is, let's say if there's a pigima, if there's a nick on the knife, and you're cutting, so it's not the blade, but it's the tearing that's taking place. That's why there cannot be any nicks on the knife. So those are the 5 basic halachos that every tabach should know. So my kamash kul teninu. We know all this stuff. This is all beferish in Mishnayos later on. We mentioned already a couple of times in the Gemara, at least 3 of them. For some reason, we don't mention all 5. We mentioned 3. The guy already, we saw him, he has some type of a chazaka, he's done it a few times, a shachat shaper, and he's done pretty good. Now, madatema, maybe shachat shaper, so hainami shachat shaper, he maybe has a chazaka. The fact that he's already shechted a few times properly, so now we could assume that now this shchita is also good. Kamashmon, kivan de gomer, since he doesn't know anything, zimnin de shayi v'donis v'lo yada. Who says that he's necessarily doing it properly? He may not know what he's doing, and therefore he's going to end up causing problems. This is, again, question 9, my kamash mulan, it's pshita. Again, even though you've seen him do it a few times, we're still not going to be saimich on his shchita. We're not going to necessarily assume that it was done properly, which is the same question as TA7, but TA7 only asks you elu halachos. And it says 5. They give you no rachmanas. You need to remember all 5. That doesn't make sense. You should know shehiyah, hagrama, drasa, ikr, and did I say hagrama? Okay. Anyway, so you should know those by heart. Maybe it doesn't look like I know them by heart, but I do. All right, so let's continue. So it's necessary, you should check out to make sure that the simanim, the veshet and the kana, the esophagus and the trachea were cut properly when the shechita was done. You have to do a bedika, an inspection, to make sure you did it properly. We also have proof of this, as we'll see later on. If you delayed enough time to do the inspection, so my love, kidei bikr simanim. It must be, what's the inspection? It must be you're inspecting to see that the simanim were cut properly. Says Rashi, livdak hasakin shatamach sarich laharos hasakin l'chacham ha'ir. He has to bring his knife to the chacham of the city, mimnei kavod chacham, to honor the. That's going to be the answer. So not that you have to check the simanim, but you have to have enough time to actually give the knife. You have to find the chacham. You have to go, maybe he lives a block away, maybe he lives a half a mile away, and you have to walk over there that amount of time for kavod, showing kavod to the chacham. The Rashi says, Aval gav shahatabach baki behilchos bedika. Even though he really knows what he's doing himself, obviously this is his craft. You would think he would know how to be able to use a knife. Doesn't matter. We still say that that's a kavod chacham that you showed him the knife. So how is that possible that we're giving a measurement? What if the chacham could be living next door to you? He could be living 20 miles away from you. So how could you tell me that this is the time of bringing it to a chacham? Who knows where this chacham is? So it has to be a definitive time. It means in order of time for the tabach who is a chacham to check it. Says Rashi, chacham then mufla be'ir mimenu. There's no one smarter or greater than him. It's just checking the knife. So in other words, the person himself could be checking the knife. Let's say he's the chacham, or let's pretend the chacham is literally 1 inch away from you. So as soon as you did the shechita, you should immediately hand it to him. It means the immediate motion and time it takes for the knife to be examined, that is the time we're talking about. Okay, but again, it's not necessarily a raya that we need to be baidik the simana. So Gemara answers, lo badik mai. Let's say taka. Okay, you're saying you're supposed to be doing. Let's say you don't examine the simanim at all. So what's the din? So Rabbi Lezer ben, and maybe it was done properly, maybe it wasn't. So Rabbi Lezer ben Antigonus mishum Rabbi Lezer ben Yana Yemer treifa v'yasur b'achila. So the reality is that this animal is considered to have the halachic status of a treifa, and it's usher to eat. Okay, so it could be a treifa, but masnisa tana nevelu matama b'masa. So this is actually a different level. That actually it's considered to be like a nevela, that it also has a din tuma, that will be matama anyone who comes in contact or lifts it up. Says Rashi, ve'ezuzu treifa sheshachta. So it's interesting, he's saying that this is a case in which the animal is on some level a little bit tameh, not tameh, right? So this is talking about this din that it takes upon itself the status of a treifa and not a nevela. So obviously a nevela is a lot worse in this context because there's also, it can transmit tuma. So but my commitment, what is this whole machlokus? Do we view it as a treifa or nevela? So, but Rav Huna, Rav Huna, behema b'chayeha. If you have an animal while it's alive, obviously you can't eat a living animal. It's ever ben achai. So b'cheskas isur menes. Since right now it's aser, even after you did the shechita. So the reality is that it's always considered to be aser, unless you know otherwise. Okay. So it says Rashi, Shahari Asura Mishum Eber Menachai. Obviously, you can't eat it while it's alive. Hilkach im noyelid safik b'shchita. If there's any doubt, uvasal hamida al cheskasa, will put it on its original chazaka. Shari b'chol davar ata aimer hemidavar al cheskasai. So originally, there it was alive, which means you couldn't eat it. So we're going to say also you can't eat it. Okay, that's behema b'chayeh b'cheskas isra medes. Achid l'cha b'ma nishchata. Nishchata, let's say you have an animal which is in front of you that is shechted, So harihi b'cheskas heter ad shivdol chabamad nitrafa. So since you see meat and it looks, you've never seen it when it was alive. You only saw a shechted, packaged meat. So the question is, what's this status? We're going to assume that this status, because it's been standing around as shechted pieces of meat, so that is considered to be kosher, unless we can prove it otherwise. So Mar Savar Becheskas Isser Kaima. So one holds that it's considered to be like it's usser, like an animal that's alive, a hashda mesahi, and now it died, and therefore it's considered to have the status of an nevela. Mar Savar Becheskas Isser Amrina and Becheskas Tuma Lo Amrina. No, it's true that when the animal's alive, it has a cheskas Isser. That doesn't mean it has a cheskas tuma. A living animal is not tameh. It's not matama things. It's only once it's a carcass, that's when it can be matama. So this animal is actually becheskas tahayde. So why would you say that it has the status of an nevela, rather has the status of a treifa? Question 10. Shachad l'badak b'simon mahadin. So it's either a treifa or a nevela. So let's read this. Question 10. Rabbi Lezer asura b'achila k'treifa. Masnisa tana asura umatama k'nevela. Okay. So what's this machlokas? So he said that a behema while it's alive is cheskas iser kaima. So according to the Masnisa, since the suffix nishchata b'hashda meson's dead, hari he k'nevela. Rabbi Lezer savar the cheskasa asura b'achila v'in cheskasa matama. The chazak will only make it usher, but not tameh. Okay, so that's the achlokas. Fine. Goof, let's get back to what we just said before. So, Omer Abhuna, behema b'chayeha, if you have an animal that's alive, and you know it while it's alive, and now all of a sudden it was shechted, and you don't know what the status is, so b'cheskas iser omedes, we're always going to assume that this animal is usher, because if it dies naturally, it'll be a nevela, unless you know it was shechted properly. Nishchata, if you know it was already shechted properly, b'cheskas heter omedes, so v'leima nishchata hutra. Why don't we say that at the time of the shechita, that's what was the mater? So let's say that that's what made it permissible. Says Rashi, the lashon chazaka, this presumption, lo shayach el b'davar safek, when it's a doubt, the name hamid davar al cheskaso. So why don't we just say that it's mutter? So hakamalan we hold the avagav this yalid bareyasa, even though there was a reyasa, there was a bad name about this. There was a status that made it unquestionable. Kidaboy mine Rav Abba Merav Huna, like he said, Bazei v'notol b'nei mayim mahu. If let's say you have a wolf that came after the shechita and bit the innards of an animal, or notol. So what do you mean notol? He took it. Halesif, it's not here. He took it and brought it into his hole. Why do we care if he took it? Ella naka b'nei mayim mahu. Doesn't mean that he took it away. Then obviously there's nothing to talk about. What are you going to do with this meat? It's gone, right? We're talking about he bit into it, and we don't know, and it ran away. But the meat is still in front of us. Mahu nakav hakachazinon dehu nakvinhu. What do you mean? We see the teeth marks. Well, what do you mean? Oh, maybe it's a treifa. Maybe there's something wrong with its internal organs. There's a hole in the internal organs, but you see that it was because it was teeth marks. So it was obviously the animal that did that. So it's not a treifa. El notan v'hechzirin kishein nekuvin mahu. Let's say you took it and it was returned with holes, right? So mahu. Are we concerned that the same place where the animal bit, there was a hole there from before, and therefore was already a treifa? Oh, lo. We don't have such a fear. So let's look at Rashi. Shenoylid ba suffik treifus, suffik kodim shchita hiba. V'yeshu lit loisa the leacha shchita makmina acheskas heter the stam behema enu nitrafa. So we know that stam animals are not a treifa. Okay, fine. So we said we're not chayish this concern that maybe he bit into it and that was actually the exact same place where there was already holes in the meat and therefore was already a treifa. from before. No, we're not going to assume that this animal's a treifa, just because there's holes from a zave. That's probably just the hole came from that zave, and not that there was anything before that. Esve, Ra Sipor, you saw a bird, Hamenaker B'te'ena, its peak, it keeps pecking into a fig. Or V'achbar Hanik Hamenaker Ba'av Tichim. Or you'll say have a mouse or something of a rodent that's pecking into a melon. So you have these repulsive, disgusting things. Maybe a bird's not so disgusting, but they could be disease-ridden or filled with poison, Testament base. In that situation, and Rashi says over here, Shal Nachash, we're concerned that, let's say it was a snake that that bit into these that was already there from before. So it could be a death-like situation. So what's the point? The point is like this. It's a kasha. We see over here, if there's a hole where a bird pecked, so the bird actually is not putting any poison, but they're putting a hole. The question is that hole the only hole that ever was there? There was never a hole before, or maybe there was a snake before. There was a hole, it put poison in, and now a bird in the exact same place was poking there, and we can be concerned that and we're going to say we are concerned that that's a possibility, and therefore we're going to be afraid for you to, because of sakanas nefashos, for you not to eat this. Don't eat this thing because it could have poison in it from a snake. So if that's the case, the l'chayr, you should say the same thing when it comes to the zave that bit into the bnei moyim, into the innards, into like the stomach of the animal, that we should assume that maybe there could have been a hole before the zave bit into it, and there's really treifa. So what do you mean, why not chayish? Over here we are chayish. So mi kamadamas esur sakanta sakana shani. So this is the famous expression that sakana is more strict than isser. Even though it's true, when it comes to the situation of isser, we say, okay, we're not going to assume that it's usser, right? There's no way. It's unlikely. But in this case, because it's a dangerous, life-threatening situation, we're not going to take any chances. We're going to say, maybe, in fact, b'mokum nekaf nokaf. So that's the interesting, very important concept, which teaches us, obviously, this is the Torah, right? The Torah wants us to keep the mitzvos, and violating Isurim is a big no-no. But when it comes to sakana, there's nothing to talk about. We don't play games when it comes to sakana, so it's much more significant. Why don't we just go strict there also? Why only by sakana do we go strict? Maybe by Isser we should also go strict. You don't think there's a difference? I'll show you that we do make such a distinction. But so we know that we learn out all the dinim of sveika from the din of sota, a woman who secludes herself. So that we don't know what she did with this man. Hopefully nothing, but maybe she did. It's a suffix. So if it's suffix brishus hayachid, if they're secluded, then we are concerned. We say like suffix tame. However, if it's suffix brishus harabim, if she was in the public with another man, that's not yichud, we're not as concerned. So that's the basic din that we learn out from sota, the din of, as we're going to see in a second, that's the din when it comes to isser. So that's only when it comes to suffix, so suffix tomer shos harabim sveikutar, be'ilu suffix mai megulin asurin. We know that if water is exposed, you leave a cup of water out overnight, open up, so we say it's usser. So what's the problem? Why is it usser? The problem is that in the middle of the night, maybe a snake came. Maybe this is not something which is practical nowadays, but people lived out in the middle of nowhere and there was bugs all over the place. It's possible that a snake went in, shot some venom into your water, and you could die from it. So therefore, even though it seems like a remote possibility, we're so careful about mayim megulim that we are going to be more strict. So we do see a distinction between Isser and Sakana. Now the reason is because it's a halacha moshe, it's a halacha that we learn that from Sota. It's not because necessarily sakana is more strict than iser. It's just that these are the halachos that we have to abide by. Masot b'rishus yachid is also avtoma b'rishus yachid, so it's not necessarily a proof. Mosif Rav Shimi. Fine. So he asked the question: Sheretz b'fi chulda. So let's say you have a sheretz, which obviously is tameh, and it's dead, and it's in the mouth of a weasel. The chulda mahalechas al gabi kikara shel truma. And then all of a sudden, lucky us, we have a bunch of truma nearby, and it's traversing all around this bread. So safik naga, safik lo naga. We don't know, did this sheretz tameh come in contact with the truma? So since we don't know that he even touched it, so sveikotar. V'il safik mayim megulin asurin. But yet when it comes to safik mayim megulin, we always say it's asur. So again, that's the proof. No hasanami hilchas gemir lo masaita. Masaita davar sheish bodas li'shoyel avhacha nami davar sheish bodas li'shoyel. Just like when it comes to the safek by the saita, there are parties involved, right? You could ask, did you become tameh? Did you not? And those are the questions that we ask her, so she doesn't drink from the mayim mayurim. Hopefully, she'll admit to her wrongdoing. So there's das lishoil. It's only when there's das lishoil. Says Rashi, Av kol safik tumas ha'ma'oiros b'mi sheish behen das lishol. Kagain adam, like a person. Sha'avar, or it says on the side, different girsa, sheretz on the vela. Savik naga, savik lo naga. B'shus yachid sveiko tameh. Avo kikaro she'in behen das lisholo. We're dealing with bread, right? Whether or not this animal touched the bread, so there's no one to ask. So since there's no one to ask, we don't say there's a din tum over there. It's only when it's comparable to a sota where there's das lishol. Okay. Ravashi. Let's hold off 1 second. Let's look at question 11. Elu mashka. Okay, we didn't finish this yet. Okay, so we don't really have a proof then. So avhachinami davar sheish bo das lishol. So Ravashi tashma sluchis. So if you have these jugs, says Rashi, shemuleu mayim chayim, that they're filled with this flowing water, and this is lemechatos. This is when it comes to the paraduma. V'yadayin lo niskadshu b'offer. You haven't yet put the ashes into the concoction of this water. D'im niskadshu tameya. If you did sanctify it, then it would be a din tum already. So you haven't yet put anything into the mayim chayim. So you have these jugs, shenich magul, and you left them out in the open. Uva umatz mechusa, and it turned out you see that this jug was closed. So we say tameya. We're concerned that this water, since a tummy person may have covered it, probably wouldn't be a rodent or a snake. A snake doesn't cover things. They may knock lids off and open them. They're not going to put things on. So probably it was a person. The fact that it was initially magul and now it's closed, so a person did it, and we're concerned that maybe that person was tameh, so therefore we're going to say that the mayim is tameh. Shani oimer adam tameh nichnas l'sham v'chisa. Probably this guy walked in there and he covered it up, and that's the problem. So hanicha mechusa. Let's say it was the other way around. It was closed. Uval matzah magula. Then all of a sudden it's open. Im yichol chulda lishtos mimenu nachash. If let's say it's possible that a weasel or a snake could have gotten there, but Divrei Rabbi Gamliel, osh yored batal bolayla. Let's say there was some dew that came in the middle of the night. Psula. In that situation, we're going to say it's not matama, but it's psula. Since an animal may have uncovered it, not a tummy person. So it's interesting, it's psula, but it's not matama, because it's only if we're concerned that a person did it, not in a situation where an animal did it. So instead of it being tummy, we say it's a din psula. Okay, let's look at Rashi. So what is the whole problem over here? So Rashi says, so it says, Hari nas mehen malacha, you did, let's say, a malacha with this, nifsala, it became puzzle, ukashim, Ukshe Mikiyos Psulos Esarishonos, when the invalid ones touch the good ones, like when it spits it out, this, let's say the snake does, into the Demei Chatas, Nisu B'mulacha Cheres. As it says, so it must be water that comes directly from the spring, and not that it went into the mouth of this animal and then came back out. So it's a couple of answers. So Rashi then says, "Oh nachash the Rabbi Gamliel shehu aimer af hanachash kachulda." He says the snake has the same din as a weasel. So the fine. So the Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi matam. What is the reason that if it was uncovered, that it's psula, but it was covered, it's tameya, matam, mipnei, as we continue Yudam and Aleph, should darken shel shratzim legalos, and darken l'chasais. So, because of that, says Rashi, v'afagav the adam nami darken legalos, we can say, well, the person covers it up, but maybe the person is also a person that opened it. So how do we know necessarily that the animal opened it up and not a person? Maybe the person was megal. It says Rashi, ikal mitla ba'adam tahar. So it's true that it may be that it was uncovered, but who says the person who uncovered it was a person? How do we know they were tameh? Maybe it was tahar. So it's almost like a sfeik. It's a suffix that maybe it was the animal that opened it up. Even if you want to tell it was a person, but maybe it was a tahar person. It says Rashi. You can be mitla ba'adam tahar, b'shratzim l'taher, ba'adam tami l'tami talin and basa ruba l'taher. So we see that you go mako when it comes to Isser, right? That we're going to assume that, again, if it was uncovered, that it's not going to be tameh, it's going to be just puzzle. Let's just look at these parentheses. Was covered, mechusa uba matzah megula, the other way around. So ham matzah kama shehanicha. Well, let's say you found it the way it was, lo tuma, that's not going to be matama. Ika v'psula ika. Obviously, if it was left the same way, we're just going to assume that everything's the same. V'ilo safik mayim megulin asur in shmamina chamir sakantim isur shmamina. So this talk is the proof right there. That obviously we see that this is the distinction. So a chulda again is unique, as it will lap or licks at the water. Rabbi Will says also a snake which spits into this water. So this mayim now has work done with it, or as we said, because it's not mayim chayim, once it was removed, then spit back in. Those are the two reasons of Rashi. Okay, let's finish up this daf. Tanan Hasam. Gimel mashkin asur mishum gilui mayim. Gilui. There's three issues of gilui. Mayim, if you have water open, v'yayin v'cholav, wine and milk. Kama yishu vihu asurin, how long? Kadesh yatsa harachash memakum karov v'yishta. The amount of time it takes this rachash to be able to come. It's a long Rashi. Rachash is actually, Rashi says, is a nachash. Okay, some type of a snake comes, which is close by, and drinks from it. V'kama makum karov, how close is that? Rabbi Yitzchak b'Rabbi Yehuda. Enough for it to go to the handle by the end of the vessel and for it to drink. If that's the case, you'll be able to see it. If it's just a split second, you'll see that the snake's there. It means also has enough time after drinking to be able to escape to its hole. Obviously, if you saw the snake, there's nothing to talk about. But in the situation where you didn't see the snake, so then a little bit of time could be problematic. So again, one is water, wine, and milk. Okay. WWM. Water, wine, milk. Okay. Fine. Good. Let's see. Another question. TA 7 we did. TA8, no. TB8, Adkan.